My name's Simonaz, and welcome to another Simonaz Guide video. Today, I'm going to talk to you about gearing your Assassination Rogue in Icecrown Citadel, Phase 4 of Wrath of Lich King Classic. As usual with my videos, I ain't wasting my time, ain't wasting your time. Let's get right to it. This is your Phase 4 best in slot list for an Assassination Rogue. You got your Heaven's Fall Dagger from the Lich King, Lungbreaker from Valithria Dreamwalker, Deathbringer's Will, Tiny Abomination in a jar, 4 pieces of Sanctified Shadowblade set to activate both the powerful 2-piece and 4-piece bonuses. It's all there. This is some pretty powerful stuff. And if you want to see where each of these items drop, also, I've organized that into a nice little list for you here. The end wing bosses that it says for all the tier 10 pieces are Deathbringer Saurfang, Professor Putricide, Sindragosa, Blood Queen Lanethel, and the Lich King himself. These are the bosses that'll drop your tier 10 armor tokens for you. Once you get 4 pieces of tier 10, regardless of the item level of it, and you unlock that 4-piece bonus, you're going to want to switch to the 13-7 build of Assassination, with 13 points in combat and 7 points in subtlety, taking the full 5 ranks of the Relentless Strikes talent that rewards you a lot for using more finishing moves. The 4-piece bonus complements this build nicely, as the 4-piece bonus does the same thing. It both rewards you for using more finishing moves and enables you to use more finishing moves. So these two things work together nicely to be a bit better than the alternative 18 points in combat, 2 points in subtlety build. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time talking about the perfect best in slot list because, frankly, it's not very realistic for most players to achieve a perfect best in slot character each phase. I'd like to spend more time on this video talking about some slightly more realistic gear. This is what I'd call a realistic gear set for an Assassination Rogue. I took a Phase 4 perfect best in slot list and I changed it in 2 ways. First, I removed the 25-man heroic Lich King weapons. We took the Heaven's Fall, put down to a Heart Pierce, and we took the Fallen Rush crossbow and put it down to a Njorndar bone bow. The second thing I did was take 4 pieces of 25-man loot and replace them with 10-man loot. And I picked the 4 swaps to be the 4 least impactful swaps, the ones that incurred the smallest DPS loss. So we can see we got rid of the Sindragosa's Cruel Collar, the Tosk's Maximized Wrist Guards, the Australian Sutured Cinch, and most importantly, the Deathbringer's Will swapped out for a Whispering Fanged Skull. And this gear set doesn't really lose that much compared to a perfect best in slot gear list, considering it's 6 items down. We're losing only about 1.3% damage output compared to a perfect best in slot list, which is really nice. This is a much more obtainable set of gear. Now that we know what our best in slot is, as well as an idea of what's maybe a little bit more realistic, let's talk about our item priority. What items do we want to prioritize when we're going into Icecrown Citadel? And I would suggest for an Assassination Rogue to prioritize acquiring your tier armor. Get your 264 upgrade tokens and your 277 upgrade tokens. That 4-piece bonus is really good. I would suggest you aim for picking up your 10-man neck, wrist, belt, and trinket rather than the perfect best in slot options that come from 25-man that are much more contested by other classes like your Fury Warriors, Feral Druids, and Combat Rogues. And what's really nice about Assassination is that no other classes contest you for your weapons. The Lungbreaker Dagger, Heart Pierce, Heaven's Fall, those should just fall into your bags when they drop because they're just not that desirable for any other class. And I would strongly recommend as an Assassination Rogue, you should not fight for Deathbringer's Will. Don't try to get yourself high on the priority list for that trinket, because, inevitably you're going to sacrifice priority on other things that are more impactful for your character than the difference between Deathbringer's Will and your second best option, Whispering Fanged Skull. There are 2 crafted items this phase, the Bladeborn Leggings and the Footpads of Impending Death that are relevant for rogues. The Bladeborn Leggings is more of a combat item, and if you already have Leggings of Broken Beast on your Assassination Rogue, I wouldn't worry about picking up the Bladeborn Leggings. However, the Footpads of Impending Death are an excellent item for Assassination Rogue. As long as you can equip these boots without going over your expertise cap, you should. Even if equipping these boots means you have to change out a couple other gems to make sure you're not over expertise cap, still do it. These are some very good boots, and frankly, your boot option from 25-man, the Frostbitten Fur Boots, That's another one of those armor penetration items that's highly contested by a lot of other classes. I wouldn't try to get that too early and just stick with your crafted ones for a while. Now let's talk about some of those alternative options for assassination rogues, alternatives from your perfect best in slot items. First up is the necklace. The best necklace is the Sindragosa's Cruel Claw. It's got agility, stamina, it's got a socket, attack power, armor penetration, and haste rating. It's an item level 277 necklace, which means it just has a lot of stats on it. However, one of the stats it has is armor penetration, and because assassination rogues deal a pretty substantial amount of their damage as magical damage that is not boosted by armor penetration, this is a lower value stat for assassination rogues compared to other secondary stats like haste, hit, or crit. So when you look at the Precious's Putrid Collar, it's only item level 264, which means it has fewer stats in total, but the secondaries it does have are more desirable ones for an assassination rogue with hit and haste rather than armor penetration and haste. That closes the gap pretty substantially between these two items, and the Precious's Putrid Collar is a pretty close alternative to the Sindragosa's Cruel Claw. And I'm gonna sound like a broken record if I say this whole thing over and over again, but it's pretty much the same story with all of these alternative items. The best item has more stats, it's item level 277, but it has armor penetration on it. And you've got a lower item level item that has fewer stats in total, but it has slightly more favorable ones. The Vambraces of the Frostworm Queen are another good alternative for an assassination rogue. And you just look at these two items, the Australian Sutured Cinch as well as the Soul Thief's Braided Belt, and you should know by now what the deal is with these. Soul Thief's Braided Belt is a pretty good alternative for an assassination rogue. And the most important of all of these alternatives is Deathbringer's Will. I would not recommend trying to get as an assassination rogue. Just go with your Whispering Fanged Skull and your Tiny Abomination in a jar and call it good. Every other class that wants Deathbringer's Will as part of their best in slot setup sees a substantially larger gain for equipping Deathbringer's Will compared to the second best option than an assassination rogue does. The only reason I really see to give Deathbringer's Will to an assassination rogue is if they plan to switch to combat after getting Deathbringer's Will, because Deathbringer's Will is a very substantial item for a combat rogue. Next, we're getting rid of those 25-man Lich King weapons, and this follows the same theme as all these other exchanges. Fallen Rush, lots of stats. Jorndar Bone Bow, less stats, but slightly better ones for a rogue. And there's other good alternatives in the range slot as well, such as Gluth's Fletching Knife is another great one. And Heaven's Fall, we're downgrading to Heart Pierce. This is a deceptively strong dagger. The energy generation effect on Heart Pierce is very valuable for an assassination rogue who places a premium on energy and can convert energy into damage with mutilates and envenoms at a very high rate. Heart Pierce is at a premium early on, so it's a great early pickup to use while you're progressing towards killing Heroic Lich King. Finally, I have a list here for you of the top 10 weapon combinations for Assassination Rogue. And the main theme of this list is that, wow, Lungbreaker is really good. Lungbreaker is your 1.4 speed fast weapon that you're always going to have deadly poison on, and it comes from Velythria Dreamwalker. It's quite good, should be a pretty easy dagger to get, as again, no one else really wants the daggers that drop in the raid. The items with stars next to them indicate normal mode versions of those items. Everything else here is assumed to be heroic mode. And that pretty much covers it. That's what I've got to say about Assassination Rogue gearing. I'd say generally, Assassination Rogue is a fairly easy class to gear, as a lot of the stuff is simply not contested, or the contested pieces have very close alternatives you can get from 10-man. I would expect that early to mid Icecrown Citadel, Assassination Rogues are going to be very strong, probably out-damaging combat rogues, and only once you get really close to that, Phase 4 best in slot gear, will the combat rogues exceed the assassination rogues in single target damage output. Now, if you want more information about rogues and more information about Icecrown Citadel, be sure to join the Simon Eyes Show Discord, which is linked in the video description. There's way more resources for in-depth item comparison for each slot. There's spreadsheets and simulators to look at your unique gear situation. There's information about talent specs, as well as boss strategy, tips and tricks, all that kind of stuff. Also, check out Simon Eyes Show TV. That's my VODs, clips, and highlights channel here on YouTube. You've got all my PTR raids, and when the raid goes live, it'll have my live raids as well, so you can see rogue point of view for these raids. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful for you, and I hope you have a lot of fun in Icecrown Citadel.